The stage lights glowed softly, casting a golden hue across the auditorium. The air was heavy with anticipation, the kind of silence that made every whisper sound like thunder. Parents shifted nervously in their seats, children fidgeted with programs, and judges sat with pens poised to write notes. It was the final night of the local talent competition, a yearly event in a small American town where dreams often felt too big for the place that contained them. Among the long list of singers, dancers, and magicians was one name few people noticed: Ethan Miller. Ethan was 12 years old, thin as a rail, with hair that fell into his eyes no matter how often he brushed it back. He wasn't the type who usually drew attention. At school, he slipped through hallways quietly, carrying his guitar case like a shield against the world. Kids didn't bully him outright, but they didn't invite him in either. His mother worked 2 jobs at the diner and the grocery store, while his father hadn't been around for years. For Ethan, music had become more than a hobby. It was the one place where his loneliness transformed into something beautiful. That night, as his name was called, Ethan gripped his guitar so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His heart raced, not just from fear of forgetting the lyrics or missing a chord, but from the weight of what this moment meant. This wasn't just about a song. For Ethan, it was about proving, to himself, to the world, that his voice mattered. He stepped onto the stage, and the microphone looked far too big for his small frame. The judges gave polite smiles. The audience, restless after a series of flashy acts, leaned back, expecting just another nervous kid with a guitar. Ethan sat on the stool provided, adjusted the strap, and strummed a chord. The sound was shaky, tentative, but then something shifted. He closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and began to sing. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. The familiar words floated out, but they didn't sound like a cover. Ethan wasn't just singing, he was telling. His voice carried a raw honesty, a tenderness that made the audience lean forward. It wasn't perfect, his notes cracked slightly, his fingers stumbled once, but that imperfection made it more human, more real. Suddenly, the auditorium wasn't just a school stage anymore, it was a place where hundreds of hearts connected through one boy's trembling voice. And then something happened no one expected. Halfway through the second verse, Ethan's voice wavered. His eyes filled with tears. He tried to blink away, but they fell anyway, dripping onto his guitar. The words became harder to push out, but instead of stopping, he kept going, his voice breaking under the weight of emotion. What the audience didn't know was that Hotel California wasn't just a random choice. It was the last song his father had sung to him before leaving. Ethan had been only 6, sitting on the porch steps, when his dad strummed the very same chords. Back then, his father promised he'd be back soon, but days turned into years. The guitar had been left behind, and Ethan had taught himself to play, holding onto it as though it carried his father's spirit. Every time he sang the song, it was like reaching out into the dark, hoping for an answer that never came. The crowd was silent now, utterly still. Tears welled in the eyes of strangers who didn't know his story but felt it in every note. Even the judges, seasoned and sometimes cynical, shifted in their seats, their pens forgotten. One of the judges, a retired music teacher named Mrs. Carter, later said she had never seen anything like it. It wasn't the voice alone, she explained. It was the soul behind it. You could feel this boy's pain and hope all tangled together, and it touched everyone in that room. By the time Ethan reached the final chorus, his voice was barely more than a whisper. Yet, that whisper carried more power than the loudest performance of the night. As the last chord faded into the stillness, Ethan bowed his head, not daring to look up. He thought he had failed, that the tears had ruined everything. Then, the first clap came. Slow, steady, deliberate. It was followed by another, then another, until the entire auditorium erupted into applause. People were on their feet, clapping, cheering, even crying. Ethan finally lifted his head, blinking in disbelief. He saw faces lit with something he had never seen directed at him before, pure admiration. But the most unexpected moment came when a man from the audience stood up. He was tall, weathered by years, with tired eyes that shone with moisture. He slowly walked down the aisle toward the stage. Ethan froze, his breath caught in his chest. The man looked achingly familiar. It was his father. Gasps rippled through the audience as the man climbed onto the stage, ignoring the puzzled expressions of judges and organizers. He stood before his son, trembling, unsure, as though every step forward had been a battle. Ethan's guitar slipped from his hands, landing softly on the stage floor. Neither spoke for a long moment. The world seemed to hold its breath. Finally, his father whispered, "You remembered." His voice cracked with the weight of years lost. "You remembered our song." The boy's lips quivered. He wanted to be angry, to push this man away for the pain of abandonment, but standing there in the flood of light, with hundreds of people watching, all Ethan felt was the ache of love he had never stopped carrying. Tears streamed freely now, not just from him but from the man before him. And then, Ethan did something no one expected. He stepped forward and hugged his father. The audience erupted again, louder than before, not just for the song but for the moment of forgiveness they had all witnessed. Some wiped their eyes openly. Parents clutched their children a little tighter. And for Ethan, it was as if the weight he had carried for 6 years finally lifted, replaced by something new, hope. That night, it wasn't about winning or losing a talent show. It wasn't even about the song. It was about a boy who had the courage to pour his heart out, and a father who finally found the courage to come back.